Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, Valley First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Valley First Data with Chris, Casey, and Klemen. Happy Tuesday. How are we doing?
Happy Tuesday. Doing good. Excited where we land today.
Yeah. Tell me about one conversation you've had since our last discussion on automation related to unified views.
Why do we even have a pre-show, Chris, if you're just gonna ambush us?
I don't think I can claim it was directly related to unified customer view, but I had a conversation with a company asking us to help them clean up their portal with currently 5.8 million contacts. We'll see where we land, but I expect a pretty tough conversations on the road.
Yeah.
I have two newer projects that I've been working on in the last week, both where unified customer views have come into play. One with lead scoring and figuring out which data. Actually, just today, having a conversation with that team, they were kind of like, we have scores, we know already, and so a lot of the conversation there was around do we? Maybe we do, but often we don't. And then I have another fairly new, a younger company, that, and when you work with younger companies, a lot of things get kind of fast and loose in the early days. People are just putting data where it makes sense for them and then trying to kind of get that all sorted.
So the do we or don't we was related to the scores or related to a view?
Well, I think the view can answer the do we or don't we.
Yes, I agree. And maybe are we getting to the bottom of why scoring is so detrimental?
Why
Is that
detrimental?
Is that we have thought that we could get a unified understanding of a customer by just looking at scores and then taking action. I think that's what we're about to get into today. And as we start to dig more into this playbook, if you could zoom in a little bit, Klemen, that would be helpful. Making sure we're doing what the team that we're serving wants us to do is a super important part of this process. And it's making me rethink the ordering of these steps, right? Because today we're going to go into notification workflows. Alert your team when context changes. The unified view is only valuable if the right people see changes at the right time. These notification workflows ensure your team is proactively informed about important customer signals, not scrambling to find information after the fact. What are we seeing here, Klemen?
A huge potential, which is often buried somewhere in the CRM. At some point, we were internally kind of joking around the data potential. You kind of need a gold digger, but no, it's with potential bad connotations. We gave up on that name, but this is what comes to my mind when you have data, and I see more and more companies start realizing the first party data is your gold mine, but because it was not perceived as that in the past, and many companies felt it's easier to get 5 more contacts, new leads into the CRM than do something as you should with the ones that you already have a relationship with. A lot of companies, especially SaaS VC funded companies, were just running, hey, we just need 10 more demos next week. Now I see companies coming back to that first party data, and that identification and all that is just a way how to bring that to the surface and to inform the right users to just use that.
I think that's a really good point. And what you were kind of saying at the top, Chris, too, when most of the times when people are coming and asking me to build a score for them, it's really because their team wants to know what's changing and when, which, to your point, the score often doesn't really answer.
I mean, it only can if we've done a ton of work to understand in this context vacuum, or reviewing all the data that we do have and then making assumptions and building models and doing all this stuff. It says like this score points to all these things that we know to be true. So like it will be enough. Like I think most of the time we're just putting scores together. And yeah. Why is this so hard? So the question,
Chris is at a loss for words on.
right? Like, of course, account health drops to red. Value path stage progression, celebrate wins and ensure smooth handoffs. Like, what do you think about these message templates? Let's dig in there. Is this? So I think we're flirting with like noise, like creating noise, but also we've got to notify. We want to notify the team, especially when they're trying not to come into the CRM. Often they're using other channels, understandably, to communicate with others in the org or in like communities or customer specific channels. How do you guys think about these kinds of notifications?
Go ahead, Kate.
I've set a lot of these up. I have gotten a lot of feedback that people are like, people want more to what you're saying. And where I always go back to is like, you got to look at the activity feed because like it kind of just is there and it's nowhere else really in a reliable way that people are asking for it. I want a better option. I don't know one.
To me, it goes down to data question. If those signals really represent the right accounts, contacts, companies, whatever, that really need review immediately action, then this is not a noise. Then every such will be read with the right attention as soon as the receiver of that message will start doubting that this is really a high alert, they will start ignoring it and it will become a noise. So as someone who is setting it up, you really need to think what this is asking the one receiving that message. Are you really delivering that at the right time? Because if the first 5, when they receive that message, they try to rescue that account, will they feel it's just a waste of their time because they're not that, bad? They will start ignoring those messages and it will be pure noise. So when you think through that, it's really, I think, about the context and the readiness for that alert. If that is not the case, it will be ignored in a week. The same goes for all the notifications on HubSpot. I just turn off all of them because it's just too much of them. And then if I get notifications every few seconds or minutes or hours even, I stop looking at them. So then it's better just be that turned off, and I find other ways to figure out what I need to do.
Can you hit on again, like, why do you turn them off?
I feel there are too many, and many of them are not as important that they would deserve to be a notification. So then I stop looking at them, which means I ignore even the important ones. So every notification becomes a distraction. So I just turn off all of them, so that I keep my focus elsewhere and find other ways how to figure out what's super important or what I need to pay attention to.
I have said before, and I said earlier today, actually, I think my entire purpose in life is to get to inbox 0. So I think when you're adding notifications, for me, they're just like, they're preventing me from fulfilling my full purpose, which is clearing my inbox.
What would it take for you to not turn them off?
For me, it's really have only the really necessary ones where I need to stop doing what I'm doing and focus on that one. Otherwise, I would rather have a dashboard, at least whatever. When I block time to go and review, let's say, deals, this is where I need to have that red alert icon somewhere. But to get that notification, it really needs to be something that is worth interrupting whatever I'm doing at that point. If that's not the case, if that can wait for 3 hours, I don't want to have that as a notification. The same, I have email notifications turned off all the time. I don't want to have notification. If someone is sending me an email, even if that is a hot lead, I will get back to you when I get back to you. It's not worth my attention immediately because nothing is, there's no fire. I do check regularly my email, so I'll get back to you if it's important. But I don't want to have a notification, because for every email, if you get a notification, you just stop looking at those notifications. So just beep, 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 and just a noise at the end of the day. So every notification I want to have it for really important things.
Casey?
I want the notification. I work from my inbox, basically. Like, my inbox is my task list. So, and that's not everyone, obviously. But so from a like overarching perspective, I'm okay with these notifications. From there, because if I need to take action, then I know that. Where I would turn them off is like, do I need to take action? Or like, are a bunch of these like false positives, which is something I see come up a lot. And then if you have enough false positives, then you start distrusting all of them.
Yeah. I think this is probably the sneakiest place where trust is lost in a new system. Like when a team gets excited and, you start clicking into these notifications and it's not like you immediately regret having clicked into the notification. So what I'm hearing is like clear understanding that probably like understanding of, do I need to do this right now, or can it wait? And if it's wait, then to Clemen's point, like we probably shouldn't be notifying at all. It's like we know it's in this dashboard somewhere. But if it does create urgency, like is clicking through to it gonna help me like actually take it next action, which I think is like the difference between these clicking into unified customer views versus not, like a dramatic difference, right? So a fine line, but even between the people here, like talking to the users and understanding the preferences, it doesn't mean that each person gets exactly what they want, but when you create some team alignment, right? Let's just come back to what you mentioned, Casey, like the distrust. Like if we can't find a way to trust the signals, like you put everybody in a position to just get the job done however they can, in ways that they trust, like what they're going to do is going to create the visibility that they're not getting in these other mechanisms, visibility and context.
And one further thought is, if any of these would be triggered by my and I being a user action, I really don't need to get that notification. If I was on a call which triggered someone to move to another value path stage, getting that notification after the call is a noise I really don't want to have. So the alert should be for something that is happening without my knowledge, and this is how you bring that to my knowledge. The same goes for deal creation. If you have Slack notifications for every new deal created, the person who created that deal, that notification is useless, but the others, yes, they want to have that notification because they're not aware that a new deal was created. So I would think how to avoid making notifications which are related to the same user's action, because again, it becomes nice.
Yeah. So let's scroll down And there's a note that we can recap. Avoid notification fatigue. Add more alerts only if the current ones drive action. Such a key point here. And reviewing, review with the team. Don't just complain about people not doing the tasks. Every single Salesforce instance I've ever gone into for the first time has thousands of tasks undone. Fill in your deal amount, do this. It's because those are the moments when we're just talking about scores here, or understanding what's happening with the customer. If that's alongside these other notifications that they're getting that are process enforcement oriented, and even though everybody wants that notification that we've decided together, it's in the sea of other notifications, and then they tell you they're not getting it, and you do a bunch of troubleshooting, and they're like, oh yeah, I have this rule in my email inbox that just sends all HubSpot notifications over to this other folder. So, that's where it is. Okay.
That did happen to me one time. I had a sales rep complaining that I set up a new notification, he wasn't getting it, and yet. Oh.
Yeah. It's a thing. Anything before we move on to cross-object visibility?
Not to force us to stick around here, as we are known to do. But you meant... I'm just spitballing here. But I wonder if is there value in enabling your team to create their own notifications? And I don't necessarily mean that in building the workflow that triggers them, but I do have a lot of HubSpot notifications that send to me, a bunch that if a workflow, I have a ton of workflows built where there's a branch that's none met, send notification to Casey because the branch should have been met. So, and I see those, and like I said, I work off of my inbox, so I'm yes, want that, need to know that, know exactly what to do. That's all. Has anyone done that here?
We just set up for one of our users for the workflow, which is kind of lead routing notification, where the branch not met gets a notification, a Slack notification to the RevOps leader, because if the criteria was not met, it means some data was missing. So we should understand why the data is missing, why it was not qualified in any of the branches. So I like those notifications to the process owner, whoever that is, because this is an important information for HubSpot admin or RevOps leader, whomever is owning that. And those notifications should not be perceived as nice, because this is indicating something is broken somewhere. Everyone should meet their goals. If nothing else, at some point we realized, the workflow logic was wrong. That's why a guy got 100 notifications. So we just fixed the workflow. There were no notifications when we enroll the same contacts again and throw them through the same workflow. So those notifications, I think, are important, but it's really meant for the process owner more than those types of notifications, which are for any user, which might be account owner or contact or a company owner. So yeah, I would suggest having those, which are indicating something is broken somewhere.
Yep. Similar to, the customer-facing team. Like, do I need to take action on this notification right now? If not, we need a different place to review. I'm really anxious to get to the next page.
Then let's do it.
Cross-object visibility. Your unified view is only valuable if team members can see it. HubSpot's record customization lets you surface the right context on every record so users see what they need without clicking around. So if we click on the notification and only get a piece of information, and then we've got to open up this system and that system, and maybe go back into the inbox, find a previous email, previous attachment, give Casey a call, see what happened. We saw the email, but we can't see what happened in the interaction. So we're going to call Casey, make sure we have all the context. This is where almost everybody's getting this part wrong right now, in terms of we try to fit everything into contacts, companies, and deals. And that makes this very difficult, this like cross-object visibility. So we end up with, like 20 deal stages because we need the context of what's happening. And then it's a bunch of noise and nobody can see what they need to see very quickly. Or it's, we don't want to mess with the sales team. So we have 6 deal stages and a bunch of stuff is happening outside of the deal pipeline to help get that done. And all of that is context that we're missing. So Klemen, if you can, we're looking at different views. So take us through what you're seeing here in terms of how you like to compose these views when thinking about different objects working together.
On the contact left sidebar, I like to group them into visual, I think these are called cards, and really make visible the properties which are meant for the user to understand. On the right side, I always like to customize which properties are shown directly without any clicks based on what information is important. For companies, by default, you don't have a number of employees or something else. I like to bring that property to that right sidebar under the company card, because that might indicate how you think about that contact if you're emailing them. The same way as for deals. And when you're on a company record, for contacts, I always like to visualize employment status. So I think that customization of properties is super important to really give the relevant information to the user when they're on that record. And it is different for every company. So you need to discuss with different teams what data is important for them to make it visible immediately without any clicks. Maybe there are some information which is not standard, the number of employees or location, but there might be some properties which are indicating something specific to your company. So again, the discussion before implementation in HubSpot is important. Related to that, I had a call with with one of the customers, and I asked them, so we started, can you help us, build some agents for specific data? And then I asked back, do you know what is a good indicator at a company level for the ones you're closing successfully and quickly? And the answer was, no. So then, okay, so how can we help you surface the data if you don't know what you need? Let's first have a discussion about that. Let's brainstorm with your sales team what they're looking for. If we know what they need, yes, we can bring the data to HubSpot. But if that is unclear, no matter how many customizations of the layout I will do, it won't be helpful.
I like to start projects kind of taking a look at the record layouts, because I am the most guilty of this as anyone, of just constantly going into view all properties because things aren't,
because that's where all the
visible.
properties are.
because that's where all the properties are. And like every time I do it, I'm like, I should just customize this. And it's one of those things that's like truly not that hard, but it has to be done intentionally. And that's what prevents me from doing it, is because it's easy to just add to view, add to view, add to view. But then that suddenly becomes not helpful either because you have too many. So I think it really is important to configure this thoughtfully, and I think this is a really great starting point, because it's really not that hard.
So why do you think it is hard for people to get here?
I just
Often-
think,
Sorry, Casey. Just one sentence and I'll give it to you. Often, many users don't even know you can customize that. So they don't even think how to improve that experience. That's my experience.
I think that's true. And then I think if you know that it's possible, it gets challenging to look across your entire team. Although you can customize this as like an individual user, usually if you're doing this like systematically, you're at least looking at team levels. And I think it can feel a little intimidating to start to figure out what properties are relevant for the whole team. And I think from my experience, it often uncovers a lot more of a mess than you necessarily even knew.
You might figure out that every user has a different process, and then you're in trouble.
And you realize you have 5 different job title fields, and they all have data in them.
Because we're paying 3 different providers and then still not doing anything with the data. Yeah, that part where you find out that there's a different process, like for every user. Honestly, folks, this is what makes this concept so good. This framework. You cannot get buried, because you will get buried in that part of the figuring out why there's different processes and who knows what and where, and why aren't we doing more training? How do we get alignment? Just all of these things. If you decide that the unified customer view is going to be the outcome, and again, this is why it needs to come from the top, you start to remove these conversations of, well, I do it this way because I'm good at this tool, or I'm used to doing this, or our organization makes it hard to access things, so I just download everything on my local computer, so I have access to it. So I just bypass the whole system, and very quickly you start to get into other business problems. So if we can get to like the unified customer view, it cuts through a lot of that. Because if we're doing this for the first time, there inevitably will be like variation of process, like pretty heavily. But the other thing I want to surface as I share my screen is there's some different use cases. There's different scopes to pick earlier in the playbook, right? And I think Klemen picked sales and relationships or something like that. And I picked full service. And you notice I have 2 extra objects here on this different use case. And this is a challenge for a ton of people right now because they are thinking of HubSpot as a marketing and sales CRM, and that we don't really think about what happens after close 1. So we don't think about even the option of bringing this data in. Or we know inherently that it's a good idea to track the information after closed 1. So we ram it all in the deal. And now we've got different pipelines or more stages that go through payment and like invoicing and stuff like that. And if we're having this conversation with the team and they're engaged, but then they realize you're not going to include, like, oh, we're just talking to sales right now, and we need to get it working for sales. And sales needs data from you, but it's in your system, and we're not going to bring it over like that. Like, people start to opt out real quick. They cannot get to, like, they don't believe there will ever be a unified customer view. And that's one powerful thing about HubSpot in its current state, is that you can bring this data in. Like, you can bring any organizational data into HubSpot now. You just like have to do it with intention. It doesn't mean HubSpot's replacing these systems. It certainly could in a lot of cases. But just showing people, and this, like, to get out of the how conversation, focusing on unified customer view and solidifying that's the answer. Like, that's what we're targeting as an organization. Now it becomes, okay, I need to see active deals, active services, open tickets, upcoming appointments. And it moves us past the which tool should be doing what, when, and into like, okay, what work needs to be done to make this true, right? And now we can have prioritized roadmaps and all of the things where it's not a question of which tool makes sense, because we've decided that the data needs to be where it needs to be, and we've got to work together to get it there. Am I missing anything? Like, is it too, again, why does this have to be so hard? I don't.
I think it's the foundation piece. I think that's what makes it hard. It's not, this isn't hard when you start here, but very few companies are starting here. Most companies have to untangle a lot of webs to get here.
So do we try to untangle the webs? Or we just show them a path without webs in it. I don't know.
I think we should help them untangle going back to the value of first-party data. It's better to untangle and figure out how to clean the dust rather than start from scratch and declare data bankruptcy, and you go from zero and set it up as you would as of today. I think it's better to. I mean, in either case, you will need to agree on what is important. So when that is done, the foundation is anyway done, and then you know how to approach the existing portal to cleaning it up, so you can use the data you already have. So I think this is the path.
So in your scenario, the tangled webs are inside of the tool.
Some of them.
Okay.
There might be webs around.
There might be webs inside the hallways of the office that teams cannot get past. And I think that's where I'm going when I say, like, okay, can we stop going into this boardroom where we just come up with a bunch of good ideas, everybody nods and agrees like how bad the problem is, and then we never do anything when we leave that room, right? Like, so how do we stop that behavior? Again, most of this is just getting to productive conversations. Like, how do we get the foundation in place so that we can have like actionable, conversations? And I think it's going to be interesting next week, looking at this part 4, validations and milestones to know when this stuff is working and done. Likely not just do we have 100 scores, or like, can the team see it? Are the notifications firing? It's like, well, yeah, but they're going into this folder that nobody looks at, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. Shall we wrap it up for this week?
Yes.
Until next week.
Until next week. Join us for
Take care.
part 4. Everybody have a great week.